Major League Pickleball Daytona just wrapped, and we finally got the first upset by a bottom 8 team over a top 8 team. In fact, it happened twice, and one of them, of course, came at my expense. We're going to talk about all of that and more, all our usual charts, plus we've got clips. I did a poll. You guys said you like clips. Well, here you go, clips. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it, including brand new intro sequence for the channel. Roll it.
Thank goodness for Matty Pickles.
And alongside Matty Pickles, I'm Michelle McMahon.
Well, first of all, I can't even believe I'm standing beside you, Matty. This is hard for me. Is that Matty Pickles?
Matty Pickles.
Matty Pickles.
Matty Pickles, what's up?
Usually you have a canine.
Basil, here we go. Very good.
What do the charts say? The numbers, what do they mean?
Random charts and stats.
He's crushing the statistical analysis stuff is sick, too.
This is absurd. This is so stupid.
The world's worst pickleball player, but he's got a really good podcast.
The only pickleball YouTuber that I actually watch.
The first match I want to talk about is Utah versus New York, and this wasn't necessarily the best game, but this mixed doubles game was so chaotic that we just have to take a look. Here we've got Zane Ford for New York doing the full splits. Despite that, they do not win the rally. I mean, here's a closer look at that. Insane. When Elise Jones is involved, you know she's going to be hitting the deck, and in this match, she did it 3 times. Zane Ford again sliding, hitting an ATP winner. And eventually, Utah would close this one out. They would get a sweep over New York in our first match of the event. Up next, we have a showdown between St. Louis and LA. Both of these teams are in the top 8 in points per match standings. And honestly, coming into this event, this might have been the number 1 and number 2 women's doubles team. So very excited to see this one. We're taking a look at some dink circles here. And we're going to be taking a look at the real clear stats breakdown of this women's doubles game. And even before this lob that gets St. Louis off of the kitchen line, we've already seen 2 speed-ups that started firefights that have been successfully countered and reset by the opponents. But here we've got one more speed-up in us from Catherine Parento, right down the middle. That is a speed up winner. And for those of you who are not familiar with Real Clear Stats, they are a team of scorers working around the clock during an MLP event, collecting data on every single shot, on every single rally. And some of the most valuable insights we can get are around speed ups, on firefights. Is it the team that is initiating that is winning? Like here, Anna Bright with a firefight initiated, but Catherine Parento is on the counter. It goes back to Anna Bright for an error. So this gets logged as a firefight initiation loss for Anna Bright and a counter win for Catherine Parento. Here's a backhand off the bounce speed up. Anna Bright loves to go to this shot, but this was kind of the pattern of this match as revealed by the data. This speed up eventually leads to a rally loss for St. Louis Shock. Here's another aggressive moment in transition into the net. Trailing 4-6 after the end change, AB gets another look at that backhand speed up. This time it's deep. A few rallies later, Jade Kawamoto cross-court attack at Kate Fahey generates the error. And let's take a look at all the data collected just from this rally ending sequence. An opportunity created for Jade, yielded by Kate. Then a speed up and firefight initiated and won by Jade. And a counter lost by Kate. On the next rally, it's another Anna Bright speed up off the bounce, this time from the forehand, and again, it's deep. Everybody thinks of the LA Mad Drops men as being hyper aggressive, but hey, how about this? A little shake and bake from the ladies too. Jade Kawamoto, 2-hand, backhand drive. Catherine Parento finishes it off. And then on game point, Jade Kawamoto speed up. Catherine Parento there to finish it off. The first loss of the season for the St. Louis Shock women. And so here are a few key metrics that I have pulled from the Real Clear Stats data report from this game. We can see this shot accuracy. We can see Jade Kawamoto, 96% accurate, 0 unforced errors. I mean, hey, that sounds pretty good to me. In the bottom right, we can see that both teams were very successful at getting to the kitchen. 69% for St. Louis, 78% for LA. However, LA did dominate the kitchen rallies, winning 14 of the 23 kitchen rallies, and a big reason for that, as we talked about, take a look at the speed ups from Anna Bright. Normally so good at generating offense, just couldn't quite find it. Actually had 3 speed up errors. And you look at the counters from the LA Mad Drops women compared to the counters from Anna Bright and Kate Fahey. In my opinion, that ended up being the difference of this match. And one other thing about this match, guys, this was only 34 rallies in this match. That's pretty low. If this was a rally scoring match, we were scoring every single rally, obviously it would be different. But the score would have been 20-14 in favor of LA. I personally would have liked to see if St. Louis had a little bit more time. Could they have found a comeback? We talk about with rally scoring versus side-out scoring. People say, oh, with side-out scoring, with the better games, we get more pickleball. With the bad games, we have less pickleball. But I don't know, 34 rallies, I want more than that when the number 1 teams and the number 2 team are playing each other in women's doubles. Back to the match at hand, the LA Mad Drops were actually able to split mixed doubles, including getting another win off Anna Bright to force Dreambreaker. And these might be the 2 best Dreambreaker teams in the entire league going head to head here. This one was tight through the first round of matchups. However, the men for LA came out hot. 4-0 for Hunter Johnson, and then QD would come up, Wang Yung as we're pronouncing it now. He would get another 4-0, and I mean, there's just really no coming back from that. If you lose 8 rallies in a row in a Dreambreaker, unless you had a big lead, you're pretty much toast. And here we see Hunter Johnson getting the missed return off Hayden Patrick win. LA with an upset. How about it? 2 points in the Dreambreaker win. Take a look. Here's how it went down. Let's move along. And hey, before this next match, here's a chart that I had shared coming into this event. The top 8 teams were a whopping 42-0 against the bottom 8 teams. This stat got shared a lot. I saw it popping up in a lot of different articles. That was kind of cool. I could tell it was a banger. I mean, 42-0 is crazy. So the big story coming into this was, is anybody going to change that? And if so, which teams are going to be the ones to do it? Well, for our first candidate, how about the Utah Black Diamonds up against the New Jersey Fives? New Jersey here is missing Megan Dazon, Krista Gasheva subbing in, and here's a little wild rally there. That one almost looked like it went through the legs of Krista, but they're able to work their way back up, and once AL's at the kitchen, she's able to find the winner down the middle. 10-10 though, Utah still hanging in tight here. I mean, this would be a pretty shocking loss, even though it is a sub. It's still Annalie Waters. However, when you have your chance to defeat Annalie Waters, I mean, you got to take it. You got to knock her out. But here, after an error, it is Krista Gasheva who's actually going to get a little bit of redemption, get the ball back, or at least defend one of the game points. And on the second game point for Utah, into the net from Jeannie Irokina. Here, AL getting big in the middle, poaching, ties things up. Like I said, you had your chance. You should have taken it. Now we have game point the other way. And Krista Gasheva, defense, resets, keeping it alive. Utah Black Diamonds trying to keep them off the kitchen line, but they're back. And that is all AL needed. Maybe this upset won't happen after all, but not so fast, my friends. A 2-0 lead would quickly turn into, well, not a 2-0 lead, as Connor Garnett and Elise Jones would come out and absolutely shock AL and Will Howes. Not the cleanest game from Will Howes. He's definitely had better than this. Utah comes back from losing both gender doubles to winning both mixed, and we've got ourselves a Dreambreaker where, hey, Dreambreaker, anything is possible. Here's a great rally to start things off, 0-0. Connor Garnett, probably the favorite here. You got to take advantage of this line. And yeah, that's how you do it. 2-0, can you make it 3-0? Maybe get a sweep. Just working Will side to side. Tui Nation goes back across the court. Miss return, a 4-0 to start. Tyler Loong up against Zane Navratil. Zane Navratil had a great little round of 16 run in the PPA recently. Lost to Alexander Crum, an up-and-comer. But, I mean, Tyler Loong's moving all over the place. Another missed return, hitting winners. I mean, again, like I said, if you miss 8 rallies in a row in a Dreambreaker, you're kind of toast. Once again, that's what happened here. So there you have it. The first upset by a bottom 8 team over a top 8 team, and it would not be the last. Let's move along to Friday. Another big storyline is, what are we going to see from the Johns brothers? Let's dive in. We have the Texas Ranchers versus the Carolina Hogs, and this is a natural rivalry. Feral hogs cause over $2 billion of damages on ranches across the country every single year. However, this one was set up very nicely for the Ranchers. They just needed Alshon and Tuion Natoa to take out Colin Johns and Caitlin Christian to seal the win in regulation. However, I gotta say, felt like maybe Alshon was just trying a little too much. Like every single time he touched the ball, he wanted to kind of stunt on Colin a little bit. I know there's maybe a little beef there. He thought maybe this would be an easy win, but Colin Johns played freaking out of his mind. As there's another unnecessary Ernie from Christian Alshon. We're going to see at least one more of those. In fact, take a look here. We're going to see Edda have what looks to me to be a pretty easy chance at an Ernie, only for Alshon to jump in for the Burt and puts it into the net. And then all of a sudden, an error, another error, snaps the paddle. We are going to a Dreambreaker, but first, let's take a look at the Real Clear Stats breakdown of this match. The first thing I noticed was there were a lot of really short rallies in this. The average rally length was only 9 hits. We've seen that as high as 15 in some of these games so far this week, so I don't know, just something that was interesting. Taking a look at the shot accuracy, which is just how many balls did you keep in play, Alshon had 126 touches, so he was taking almost 2/3 of all the balls, He had 16 total errors. 6 of those were unforced, 10 of those were forced errors, but still 87% accuracy is towards the low end of what you'll see in these games. But this chart right here is where the money was made. Colin Johns hit a rally winning shot once every 7 times he hit the ball. That is a pretty insane number. He forced 13 errors. He hit 1 clean winner. You look at his player impact, which is just really quick at a glance number. It's just your rally wins minus your unforced errors. He clearly led the pack with a 12. I mean, that is a very high number for a single game. Also, we touched briefly on the opportunities created and yielded earlier in that women's doubles game, the LA Mad Drops against the St. Louis Shock. But just as a quick refresher, what this means is there were 15 instances where Colin Johns hit a ball and it came back and their team was able to hit a rally winning shot on the next ball. And this opportunity analysis is actually now being factored into the new and improved Player Impact Plus metric. So this not only is your winners, errors forced errors, and unforced errors all being thrown into one stat, and now also has the opportunity analysis, and you can just see Colin Johns started off hot, and he stayed hot the whole way. The Ranchers were actually the better team at getting to the kitchen when they were on serve, but the Carolina Hawks dominated the kitchen, winning 16 of the 23 rallies in which all 4 players made it to the kitchen line. And we think of Colin Johns as a right side specialist who doesn't generate a whole lot of offense, but the firefights that he initiated had a net win percentage of plus 22%. Take a look at the team firefights initiated, advantage to the Hogs. Look at the counters. Colin Johns was on those as well, and net plus 11 win percentage on counters is very strong. Normally players are negative and they still lead MLPs. So I know I talked about maybe Christian Alshon was, maybe overextending a little bit, but at the end of the day, Colin Johns just played out of his mind. This might be the best we ever see him play. And ultimately, Christian and Etta couldn't close, and we go to a dream breaker. Here we go. And this was a dream breaker that Texas just never really felt like they were in, even just from the outset. I mean, we're going to see the lead just already starting to get a little higher than you want. It's still within reach. Just 1-4-0 can swing it. But that 4-0 never came. Carolina stayed hot. Here's a look at the GM, Ryan DeWidgeon. Can't be too thrilled with how this one shook out. And Carolina becomes the second bottom 8 team to defeat a top 8 team of the weekend. Previously, it was 42-0, and we've seen it twice in the same week. Will we see more? Sorry, guys, but no, we will not. We did see the SoCal Heart-Eights get what I would call an upset over the Chicago Slice. Texas would get things back on track with a 4-0 sweep that it looks like a blowout, but if you take a look at the actual games, Texas trailed at the halfway point of each of the first 3 games before eventually winning those 11-9. So very close game despite the 4-0 sweep. Carolina found themselves in the exact same position they were in against Texas. They lost the first 2 games. They won mix number 1. Could Colin Johns force another dream breaker? No, in fact, he got pickled. And this game only lasted 16 rallies. It was ugly. St. Louis also got a sweep over the Utah Black Diamonds. Chicago swept the New York Hustlers. And the Hustlers, with a bunch of subs, got a win over SoCal, who also had a few subs of their own. On this Saturday, we've got a top 8 showdown between the LA Mad Drops and the Texas Ranchers. LA, we know how good their women are, and Texas Ranchers women have been struggling just a little bit this year, but from trailing 4-9, they came all the way back. They're going to tie it up. Ryan fired up. And Texas, they're actually going to take women's doubles only to then give up the driver's seat to the drivers of the drops. And that was just a confusing and convoluted way for me to say that even though LA are the Mad Drops, man, they sure do love to drive. Here's an Ernie, though, to try and tie it up at 10-10. Look how close that is. Oh, just deep. QD loves it. Dad loves it. Another big drive from Hunter Johnson gets the out call. And Hunter's foot is in focus. The ball not so much. But luckily we have this completely real and legit red dot we've drawn on the ball. Onsines and Pisnik would cruise to a mixed 1 victory. And that would set up another situation for Texas, where they just need Alshon and Etta to close out to get a regulation win. And once again, they come up short. That is now twice that this mixed team, which is their closer, left points on the table for Texas. We're going to take a look at this when we dive into the data, but for now, we've got a dream breaker, and keeping with our theme of previous dream breakers, 1-4-0 sweep is all it takes. And just look at this. Where do you think she's going? I bet you didn't guess there. What an incredible shot. People always say how underrated the Kawamotos are, and honestly, I'm kind of trying to subvert this narrative. They are so underrated that they're actually overrated, that they're actually adequately rated. That's my take there. What another incredible shot. There's your 4-0. But if Alshon can counter back with a 4-0 of his own, maybe we've got something. Just needs one more. Can he get it? 17-18. Serves it up nice and big like he likes to do, and the drive just isn't there. And the third, Onsens against Wang Yung, and yeah, gets the net tape, hits the winner, and there is match point just wide. LA Mad Drops gets 2 points to Texas's 1. That is backing up their win over St. Louis with another legit win right here, folks. Elsewhere around the league, why were the 8s afraid of the 5s? Because of Annalie Waters. There you go. The LA Mad Drives got a 3-1er over the Carolina Hogs. Texas got a 3-1 with Lana Jansen subbing in for Etta Tuianotoa. They defeated the New York Hustlers. St. Louis Shock swept the Chicago Slice. Utah Black Diamonds got a very tight 3-1 victory. Look at that men's doubles line over the Carolina Hogs. Utah looking like they're probably a playoff team. The Shock swept the 8s, and New Jersey swept the Slice on to Sunday. For our featured match on Sunday, yeah, a lot was made of this. This is Ben Johns making his entrance to Sunday night pickleball. However, it's like 3 p.m. maybe, local time. Anyway, a lot of fanfare, not a whole lot of energy radiating off of Ben Johns. Doesn't really have aura, as the kids call it. And on the other side of the net, they have the New Jersey Fives, who really are known for bringing the energy. Zane is Mr. MLP. And speaking of Zane and Will, they were both very critical of the Johns Pros after the whole Columbus withdrawal debacle. So interesting to see Ben and Colin get a win there. So the match flow really feels like we're going to get a dream breaker, you know? Ben and Tammy probably should be able to handle Zane and Megan. However, Zane and Megan, we've got to talk about them. They went 4-0 this week. They're going to win this match. In fact, they're not just going to win it. They are going to get a pickle on Ben Johns. This does not happen very often at all. It's always worth checking out when it does. I mean, this is just unbelievable. It's a beatdown. This overhead goes into the bottom of the net. Zane can't believe it. And I mean, from that, you just know it's got to happen. And by the way, Zane Navratil has been doing some pretty remarkable short form recaps. Like, he gets these things out on Monday. He talked about this match, everything that went on this event. Go check it out. I mean, I think he's doing great work with that. But anyway, this one wasn't technically over because Colin Johns could once again play the hero, force the dream breaker, but, you know, just wasn't meant to be. Tough ask to go out and beat Will Howes and Annalie Waters. So there you have it, a 3-1 for New Jersey. Elsewhere, LA would finish up their perfect weekend in terms of record. They did drop a few points by going to Dreambreaker. Texas gets swept by St. Louis. Guys, 1-3 for Christian Alshon and Etta Tuianotoa. Maybe a little bit of concern for Texas after this event. I don't know. We'll talk about that. LA would sweep Chicago. Carolina would sweep the SoCal Hard Eights. New Jersey Fives would get a 3-1 win over the New York Hustlers. And here's some fun trivia for you in this one. A little more fodder for the rally scoring versus traditional scoring discussion. The men's doubles game between Stephen Madonia, AJ Kohler versus Will Howes and Zane Navratil had 77 rallies in it. That is more rallies than the other 3 games combined. If you came out here excited to watch Annalie Waters in this one, you didn't get to see a whole lot of her. And here we've got a very notable result in terms of the playoff race for that final 10th spot. Utah really looking like they've been in the driver's seat along with Miami, especially after they had got the win over the New Jersey Fives. But man, Chicago, this is a good win for them. Stealing a point like this, like that could be big. This could matter. And then also over on Grandstand, the Texas Rangers got a 4-0 sweep over the SoCal Hard Eights, but Texas actually started both of their subs, Lana Jansen and Michael Lloyd. And speaking of Michael Lloyd, hate to see this guy go. He has been traded in exchange for cash and Rafa Hewitt to the California Black Bears. Look, I know the Texas Rangers management, I've talked with them, they think the world of Michael Lloyd. They loved what he brought. They just had the feeling that he was going to get stolen, so you wanted to cash him in while you could actually get some money back, and you send him to a place where he's going to be able to get reps. This is going to be a good situation for him. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him. I'll be cheering for him in Challenger League. Here we've got the standings from just this event. St. Louis Shock led the way with 16 points in their 6 matches. They did drop 2 points because they went to a Dreambreaker and lost to the LA Mad Drops, as we saw earlier. Still, they're absolutely looking like a legit contender despite the loss. Although they do fall a little bit further behind Dallas, but I would be shocked if Dallas doesn't end up dropping one eventually. I mean, you just feel like it has to happen, right? Up next, we do have the LA Mad Drops and the New Jersey Fives. Looking at them, they both got 13 points, although they got there a little bit differently. LA was 5-0. They did get 2 of their wins in a Dreambreaker, and this was the first full event where they've had all their players for every single match, and they look pretty good, guys. I mean, what do we think? Are they a contender? We'll take a look at my tier list and power rankings later, but I'm starting to believe in what the Mad Drops are doing. For the New Jersey Fives, they did have the one disappointing loss to the Utah Black Diamonds. But that did come with sub Krista Gasheva in the mix instead of Megan Dazan. And speaking of Megan Dazan, She was incredible this week by Real Clear Stats Player Impact Plus metric, which we talked about earlier in the video. She was the #1 player for all women. Her and Zane went 4-0. That is remarkable. This mixed doubles #2 line for the New Jersey Fives last year with Zane and Mari, it just wasn't that good. If this is becoming a thing, the New Jersey Fives, they're going places. Moving down, we have Texas, where it wasn't like a total disaster. It easily could have been if Michael Lloyd and Lana Jansen didn't step up and get 2 wins against, not great teams in New York and SoCal, but still. More concerning, though, is the 1-3 mark for Christian Alshon and Etta Tuianotoa, especially the loss against LA. I mean, that's a good team they lost to. It happens, but if they close that out, that's 2 more points they get back on the board because they end up losing the Dream Breaker. It could have been a regulation win. But the one that really stings is losing to Colin Johns and Caitlin Christian. That just feels like when Alshon and Etta are your 2 kind of like top dogs, they're your 2 top picks from last year's draft, you're putting them out as the mixed #1 team for you against the other team's mixed #2. Go close it. You need to go close a match. And they just came up short in that one. And again, it leaves 2 standing points on the table because Texas just isn't really looking like a great Dream Breaker team. They are 0-3. Brooklyn is 0-2. These are the only 2 teams that have yet to win a Dream Breaker. So I don't know. Again, it could have been a lot worse for Texas, but man, it feels like it really should have been a lot better. For Utah, the win over New Jersey, that just shows the upside of this team. Tyler Loong and Connor Garnett are playing really well together. They went 3-2 in this event, and they are 9-5 on the season. Based on my duper adjusted analysis, based on their dupers, their opponent's dupers, this is 2 games better than we should be expecting them to do if you believe in duper and this formula that I've reverse engineered based on the graphics I used to show on the broadcast last year. And generally, I think these numbers do kind of track. But if you disagree or you have a problem with my methodology, let me know. I'd love to always improve things. But back to Utah, that win again shows the ceiling, but then you lose to a team like the Chicago Slice, who's right there in the standings with you. Still, I feel pretty good about them. I do think that they have a very good chance of making the playoffs. Now we go to Chicago, where we did just talk about that win over the Utah Black Diamonds, but you really can't be dropping points to the SoCal Hard Eights. Even if you have a sub in the mix, you just got to find a way to win this one. Carolina, they did finally get a few wins. They were winless coming into this, Again, when they beat Texas, it was dunk on Matty Day. Everybody had their fun. Even the commissioner got in there. Taking a quick look at the MLP Daytona only results men's doubles, Gabe Tardio, Hayden Patrickin were a perfect 5-0. Alshon and Onsens continue to be a very good men's doubles team. And how about Michael Lloyd getting a win, 1-0? Love to see it. Ben and Colin at 3-3. Again, we can see here, -1.5 wins below expected by this metric. That means we really should be expecting them to be going, 4-2, maybe 5-1. And looking now at the whole season for them at 5-5, they're right around where an average MLP team would be performing. However, this is Ben and Colin Johns. The last time they played together in the PPA, they won a gold medal. Remember, they won the Masters this year. That's not going to cut it. For the Chicago Slice, James Ignatowicz and Max Freeman at 1-5. They just made the trade to get Vivian Glosman, but do they need to move on from one or both of these guys? Do they need to be looking to make some trades? Looking at the teams that were here, the St. Louis Shock, the New Jersey Fives, Texas Ranchers, Utah Black Diamonds, LA Mad Drops, okay, you know what? These are pretty good teams that were here. Come playoff time, those are the teams you're going to have to be beating. Looking at women's doubles, it was a perfect week for Annalie Waters and Megan Dazan, and Annalie Waters did also get a win with Krista Gasheva. Anna Bright and Kate Fahey, as we saw, took their first loss of the season to the LA Mad Drops women, and LA had their winning streak snapped by the Texas Ranchers women, who had been maybe not quite looking as good as they had been last year. Mixed doubles, we talked about Megan Dazan and Zane Navratil going 4-0. Gabe Tardio and Kate Fahey, they're not slowing down, guys. This is becoming a legit thing. Also, if you look at the average duper that they face this event versus Anna Bright and Hayden Patrickin, they're putting Gabe Tardio and Kate Fahey up against the other team's better mixed doubles lineup, and they're going 5-1. They are now 11-1 on the season. They're outperforming their own expectations by almost 4 wins. They're outperforming what the average team would do by 4.4 wins. Guys, this is the thing. This is real. This is scary. This was the thing last year. I was always saying, if they could just figure out this mixed doubles lineup, man, they'd be good. And man, they're good. Jumping back to the Chicago Slice, 2-4 for the new look, James Ignatowicz and Vivian Glosman. Here's a look at the standings. I like to do it like this. I just think it's a cool chart. You can see each game. You can see in each match how many points did each team get. And we can see our first round bye target is at 48 points. And our playoff cut target is at 27 points. And a handful of teams, in fact, I count 6 teams, are already over that target cut line. And that, of course, is just 1.07. That's Miami. That's how many points per match they're getting. Times 25, they're on pace for about 27 points. That's how we're getting to that number. It's not super scientific. Here's that same chart, but just cumulatively still sorted by points per match. St. Louis dropped down to second place, but they're neck and neck with the Dallas Flash. And we still have at least one matchup between these two teams. And come on, we better get 2 matchups between these teams in the regular season. We've watched a lot of mismatched games this year. I don't care if you have to rig it. Give us this matchup twice, please. So here's a look at our updated results grid. Here's just a quick refresher on how this works. And okay, yeah, again, Texas only earned 1 point against Carolina. Okay. And again, here's just that box. This is the top 8 teams versus bottom 8 teams. This is where I first realized this 42-0 statistic, which has now been updated to 56-2. Still very lopsided for these top 8 teams against the bottom 8 teams. But hey, it's doable. It can happen, you know. Here's also a quick look at all the matches we'll get at the next MLP in San Clemente. And we're going to start getting rematches, so I'm going to have to get creative with this graphic. It's going to break whenever we have rematches, so if you have any ideas for me, get in the comments, let me know. Another one of my favorite charts is just showing on the x-axis gender doubles performance. On the y-axis, we have mixed doubles performance. So it's not really too surprising to see this strong correlation here. If you're good at gender doubles, those same players are going to play mixed doubles, and they're probably pretty good at mixed doubles too, and that's exactly what we're seeing. The one notable outlier is, of course, the Brooklyn Pickleball team, and they are significantly better at mixed than they have been in gender. They are 12-10 in gender doubles, and they are 18-4 in mixed doubles. That's pretty remarkable. In fact, their overall point differential is in 3rd place of doubles. Of course, they are 0-2 in Dream Breakers, but I'm not sorting by that. Also, just for fun, here is once again the same type of chart, but only gender doubles. So we just have men's doubles going across, and we have women's doubles going up and down. So the top right's where you want to be. That means you are good at both men's doubles and women's doubles. In the bottom left, you have bad men's doubles and bad women's doubles. Now we'll get into everybody's favorite chart, the MLP value chart. Here we are just plotting point differential against roster cost. This is either the keeper cost this year or the draft price from last year. A few notes is we still do have the pizza zone. However, Zane Navratil has graduated out of the Pizza Hut. Ben John's Island is fighting its way back up above sea level. We've got a ton of great value up here, pretty much all of the Dallas Flash, St. Louis Shock, a handful of Texas Ranchers. Got the good value. We see a lot of the LA Mad Drops players. However, I do think that as this team gets more reps playing in its full final iteration, we can maybe see them start to creep up a little bit too. Same could be said for the Brooklyn team. I'm pretty high on them. And here's the same chart, but instead of point differential as our basis for value, we're just looking at win percentage in games. And that brings us to updated tier list and power rankings. Here's what I've done. I've dropped Texas and Columbus, even though Columbus didn't play, down into the B tier. I just right now feel like these teams above them have shown more recently. It's just been a while since we've seen Columbus. They only had the one event where they were at full strength. So I'm comfortable putting them down there for now. Both of these teams I do think could absolutely play their way back up into the A tier, maybe even challenge for that 4th spot. But from what we've seen from LA this week, I've got to give them the nod at 4. They're up 3 spots. Again, Texas down 2, Columbus down 1 spot. No other changes there until we get down into the bottom. However, I did take Utah from the D tier where they were all alone into the C tier. And I feel like I probably should have Utah ahead of Chicago, but Chicago just got a head-to-head win against them, so I'm going to give them the nod for now there. Down on the bottom, we have taken the Carolina Hogs out of timeout. I've seen enough from them beating the Texas Ranchers so that they're not an F tier team. You know, I would expect them to beat both of these teams down there. It just feels like it's these 8 teams for sure are locks in the playoffs, and then 2 of these 3 teams will be in, and then I'd honestly be pretty surprised if anybody else made it in. So that's going to do it for this video. I do want to give a quick shout out to all 5 of my members. They are Basil Buddies. It is a $1 a month subscription. gets you access to all of these cool emojis. You get a little badge. You can, I don't know, message me and request a graph and I'll make it for you. So if you're interested in supporting what I'm doing, go ahead and check that out. Consider doing that. Also, I should have said this before. Like and subscribe to this video would mean a lot to me. And with that, yeah, I'm out. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.